That was Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana from their second album, Nevermind, in 1991. And if you're just joining us, you're listening to Rebel Essex, Rock and Radio with Mark Murphy and Ryan Gladwin, and we're just starting our review of Nevermind by Nirvana. It's our album of the week. So, Ryan, well, I guess we'll start off with just your overall thoughts on the album, just quickly.
So, it's I think the first track, Smells Like Teen Spirit, obviously a classic, and I think it does start the album off in a perfect way in the sense that it kind of wraps everything up in. I feel like a lot of this album, obviously a lot of it's coming from Kurt's like personal experiences and stuff like that, but it's also a lot of it just captures what the youth was feeling at the time, and like depression and like the feeling like rejected and like pushed away from society and like angst towards the media and stuff like that. And overall, I'm liking the sound of the album, liking the lyrics of the album, but that's all I'll start off with.
Right. Okay. So I guess Smells Like Teen Spirit. Personally, I love Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's like, you know, it's one of my. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Nirvana song. It used to be when I first got into them. Mm-hmm. But it's not even my favorite track off the album. It's up there, obviously. Like it's like an iconic. Yeah, it's song. A classic. It's like a classic '90s tune. Mm-hmm. And I think as well, like have you seen the music video to this song? Yeah, like it like classically shows what the song is about. It's just about teenage culture and like that sort of thing.
Proper angsty tune.
Yeah, I think there's not much. It's one of those songs that there's not much. I think everything that's sort of been said about it has been said already.
It's such a big song that everyone kind of knows what it's about and stuff like that. Obviously, it's exploring Kurt's depression as well as his drug use and like how he's struggling to cope with fame and stuff like that. And there's actually talking about depth to the song. There's actually more depth to the pre-chorus than I actually thought there was originally. Like the repeating hello, 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 and then into how low. So obviously, Kurt talks throughout this album about like his manic depression and like struggling with all those things. And I think one way you can read into that hello, hello, how low is how like just a simple hello, someone saying hello to him can be spun straight into like how low am I? Like his depressive mindset is just spinning things that quickly, and that little mundane things like hello can just set him off into some like dark place, like down into an elevator into hell kind of thing. But another alternate reading of that as well, you could also. Something I read online. I prefer the first interpretation, but people also saying about how he's saying about pop music and how it's kind of like the lowest common denominator, and how low can like the repetition in pop music just go. Like it's just constant repetition. If you think about it, like a lot of pop songs are just like I'm not talking about like the Beatles pop. I'm talking like the lowest common denominator pop that is just like manufactured and like industry puppets and stuff like that. And it's kind of, it could be a commentary on that, but
I don't know. I kind of prefer the second.
Do you? Okay.
I do. I think I don't know. I think maybe because a lot of the stuff off the album in general is about Kurt himself. Mm-hmm. So it's starting to be a bit more like, I don't know. I mean, obviously what he's saying about himself can be applied to a lot of people. Like, that's why I find out in Nirvana, like a lot of the stuff is very timeless. Mm-hmm. Like even though it's obviously a product of the 90s and that sort of thing, but like there are loads of people, like I remember growing up as well, like around the time that I got into Nirvana, like loads of people as well like Nirvana, like they're a band that a lot of people like obviously identify with and really get behind.
Yeah, so, like the song title suggests, like Smells Like Teen Spirit, and like I said, this whole album captures how the youth feel and how teenagers feel. Like this particular song, obviously, the teen spirit that it's talking about, like it's just the youth being depressed, like, and I think that is an accumulation of a lot of things which we don't really have time to get into. Obviously, we've spoken about it in other shows and why I think it is, like technology and stuff like that. But I think Kurt himself, obviously he was an extreme of it. He is the product of our generation, but mainly obviously the generation before us. But our generation can also relate to that generation before us in that sense, I think.
Yeah. All right. So just get into the next track, In Bloom. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, you saying you preferred the second reading of the hello, hello. This is kind of like, I feel like poking fun at those who don't read into lyrics and stuff like that, and I find it like beautifully ironic because obviously they got fame off their last album, but Smells Like Teen Spirit is like the Nirvana song that everyone knows. If you ask someone name a Nirvana song, 9 times out of 10 they're naming Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's a bit of a meme, and it's quite ironic because they obviously would have had people coming to their shows not knowing what this song is about and then performing this song and people dancing and like
yeah, exactly, because this song in itself was very popular as well. That's what I love about it as well. Like, it became quite a popular track, and as well, like, I don't know if you've seen the music video for this one. Like, there's like bits where like they're performing as like, you know, the classic like old school 50s 60s like bands like on the black and white screen. It's that whole kind of thing of like all these artists across history, not just Nirvana, but like bands in general who've had these massive fan bases. Like, they'll listen to them, they say that they love these bands, but they don't actually really know what they're actually singing or writing about. I really do enjoy this one. This is one of my favourite ones. I think, again, this is another one of those tracks that, again, 14-year-old Mark, just, you know, learning to play drums. I remember learning this song on drums. And it's actually a really good song to learn to play on drums. Like, there's a lot of variation on it as well.
Did you know what it meant?
Probably not, ironically. I think maybe after like about a year afterwards, but like obviously now I'm fully aware, but at the time I honestly can't remember really.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what I'm going to go into on this album as well is like the lyricism of Kurt. Like, we were talking about this before reviewing the album. The lyricism of Kurt on this album is incredible. In this song, if you look at it, like pretty much every line or like within a line, he contradicts himself. So, and the one bit that doesn't contradict, which is I find like quite interesting, is "I don't have a gun." So obviously before that, so he has multiple lines where he's like contradicting himself and stuff like that, and then he just starts repeating "I don't have a gun," which I find very interesting. Maybe it's a threat to those people who aren't listening deep enough into music, saying that like it's how like society are kind of, I don't know. There's some sort of reading in towards that about how society threatens people who don't fit into their system, and those, I feel like people who are listening into their music are those rejects from society kind of thing, and that's who they're talking to, not the just music fans who like Smells Like Teen Spirit because it sounds good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as well. With that line about having a gun, isn't that from the next track that we're going into? Come As You Are.
Oh yeah, sorry.
To be fair, that's a nice segue. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's a nice segue into it.
Yeah, I've read way too far.
Yeah, I think this is probably my favourite song off the album and Nirvana song. Period. Yeah. I think for me it combines. It's for me it's everything of why Nirvana's so good. Like just from the lyricism is great, but it also just sounds really nice. Mm-hmm. Like I just love the opening sort of. Is it a guitar or a bass? Because whenever I listen to it, it's... just in general. And also the drums on this are awesome, man. Mm-hmm. Again, this is another song that I learned to play on drums. Like I remember when I was like 14, 15. And it's a really fun song to learn to play on drums. Like, there's just so much you can do around the kit and stuff. Like, I really love this one. I think, again, this is like, for me, this is like the best. Mm-hmm. Well, not the best one, my favourite Nirvana song and favourite off the album. Yeah, and
like I was saying, I completely skipped what I was reading on my screen. I went one track ahead, but saying about the I don't have a gun thing, it's quite interesting as well how Kurt obviously eventually took his life with a gun. So it's for a song where he's constantly contradicting himself, and the one bit he doesn't contradict about is him having a gun. It's quite interesting to look back on.
It is. Should we just get into the next track, Breed?
Yeah.
Ironically, because we obviously talked about superorganism last week, and the oppression of the teenage middle class.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Breed is about when I sort of looked into it.
Okay.
Sort of the fear within the teenage middle classes, that whole sort of the pressure that they have on sort of, well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can really say it on air, but you know what I mean. That obviously, because that sort of thing.
Okay. I kind of looked into it more down like the relationship route, because Kurt kind of said himself, I think that this is kind of he says the song is about marrying at 18, getting pregnant and stuck with a baby and not wanting it, and a lot of people think that this is inspired off his relationship with Toby Vale, who was his girlfriend at the time of writing a lot of this album, but not at the time.
Yeah, because I think by the time he was at the start of the making of this album, they were in a relationship, but then married. Was it married or relationship? I can't remember. I'm not sure if they got married, but but then by the end of the album, he was with Courtney Love. Yeah, by the end of that. So.
And so I kind of look into it more about like the fear of like a relationship and like the commitment of all that, but also like teenagers fearing like just adult things in general, like getting a home, having a child, having to build for the future in general, like because obviously he says have a child, have a home, or plant a tree. And I read into that plant a tree is just genuinely like building towards the future is like quite scary for young people. Like even like not little things, but littler things, like just taking your A levels was like quite a daunting. In GCSEs, like that's daunting. Like you feel like at the time of taking those are going to structure your life forever.
Doing your NCTJ exam on June 7th. that's gonna be a daunting moment for us. But yeah, no, I mean, having said that though, I do think like it's probably off the first side of the album. It's probably one of the weaker songs. But I think that's just more because, like, obviously, like, lyrically, it's still, like, as strong as the others. I'm not disputing that. I think it's more from a sound kind of... At times it gets a bit, like...
Yeah,
it's almost heavy just for heavy's sake. Because, like, so we're Nirvana, we have to, like...
I don't know.
I
think this is one of my favourite tracks on the album, to be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's the thing is, the songs on this album are so quality that it's hard to find a week.
No, as I said, like, I still do really enjoy this one. I think, and I only said that on the first side of the album.
Yeah,
like,
true.
That I think it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. But I think if I was to say what's the weakest song off side one, I'd maybe say this one.
Okay.
I feel like I'd say that one.
But it's the one last thing I want to say about this song is, so obviously he's talking about a girl like throughout this, saying like she said, and the song ends with she said good. I don't know. It's sometimes you miss the little good because you kind of like tune out a little bit, and obviously you can look at it in terms of a relationship and like this woman is begging him for like a baby, a home, and like a future with him. But it could also be looked at as she is the manifestation of those fears, and like she said good at the end is like, because obviously he's saying, oh, just like I don't care, like I don't mind, like just go, like get away, like I just want to, like I don't, like I'll just do whatever kind of thing. And it's kind of like he's given into those fears, and he'll just let whatever is easiest happen to him. And I think it's quite. I think it was done on purpose that you can look into it in both ways of that, and I think that's Kurt's genius shining through on this track. Yeah,
and as I was saying to you, like when we were playing "Smells Like Teen Spirit," like I do think because of Kurt Cobain's singing style, that you can't always understand everything, and that was one of the complaints I think that Nirvana had at the time. Yeah. I know, like I remember reading up on like how certain like radio DJs were like, "Oh, we can't play this. I don't know what on earth he's saying," like all that stuff. But I do think in terms of just from the average like music listener, I'm not talking like music critics or like Nirvana fans, but just the average music listener, I think Nirvana are quite underrated lyrically. I think unfortunately because sometimes you just don't really know what Kurt Cobain's saying half the time, but then when you look into it, like, oh, this is actually very genius stuff.
I think a lot of music fans as well just listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit, and then after that don't really get much of a chance.
And I'd probably say the next track, Lithium, because when I ask a lot of people what their favourite Nirvana song is, I'd say a good 7 or 8 times out of 10 Lithium is like the other one.
The concept behind this song is so it's a concept I've never even really I thought about, but not thought about going into a song. Like obviously, so I don't know if an artist from Nirvana came out and said it, but I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed that it's about like a man's mental after his girlfriend dying, and it's kind of about how this person, Kurt came out and said that this didn't happen to him or anyone in the band, but he did put his own kind of like experiences in there, obviously. But he fortunately didn't experience like a girlfriend dying like that, and that person like turns to religion as like a last resort, trying to save himself. And obviously, Kurt is quite open about how he didn't really agree with religion and stuff like that, which we'll get onto later on in this album. He talks about a little bit more, but and then he also turns to drugs, which obviously Kurt talks about a lot.
I think he turned to a lot of drugs throughout his career, to be honest. But no, I think another thing as well, another interpretation of the song, which I found kind of interesting, and I think it could be. I think it's a marriage of both of these things. Okay. Because obviously there's another interpretation of sort of like manic depression. Yeah, and obviously, like you use and you take quite often lithium salts. Yeah. Are like a way of treating that manic depression, and this song is sort of about the highs and lows of basically being on antidepressants and that sort of thing.
No, that is exactly what it's about, but that is following.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a marriage of the two things.
It's like it's not Kurt, but the narrator in the song. Whoever this character is they've created. It's like them talking in their head to this person who's passed away. Like like the bridge where it's saying I like it, I miss you, I love you, and followed by I'm not going to crack. It's like he's promising to that person like, I'm trying to be so strong for you, but it's just so hard for that person. Like, obviously, that's such a crazy thing to go through.
I like the choice of words, like, not even like, oh, I'm not going to, like, break down. It's like, I'm not going to crack. Like, I'm not going to, like, show any, like, I think that's a really interesting choice of words. It says a lot about just Kurt Cobain as a person, I think. But, yeah, and then we'll get onto the last track of side one, and then I think after we start talking about this, we'll probably play some songs because I think you've heard her voice enough for a
way
bit.
too long already.
So basically, Polly. Basically, it's based off a real life event. I don't know if you read into this.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you probably did. So it's basically a 14-year-old girl was kidnapped by Gerald Arthur Friend while she was leaving a rock concert. Basically, suspend her upside down from a pulley in a mobile home, and basically tortured her with like a blowtorch, and then she basically just managed to escape by jumping from his truck and landing at a gas station, and then attracted attention and was saved, and I think he was then later arrested. So yeah, I remember talking to you like a while back about this.
This is what inspired us to review this album.
Yeah, it was. So I remember for ages I've really liked this song, but for years I had my interpretation of it, but it was completely wrong.
Yeah,
it was a whole thing of, I thought it was just about a guy who was babysitting like a little girl. Yeah, which kind of, when you look at it very like, when you sort of skim listen to it, or but like half listen to it, that's kind of, you can kind of, because it's sort of about like, oh, Polly says her back hurts, like she's just as bored as me, like she wants some food, like water. But it's actually just about, based off this story about this guy basically holding this girl and like kidnapping her. Yeah,
it's quite like a vivid description of what's going on. Like when you really read into the lyrics, it's quite uncomfortable. But what I found interesting is, despite it being such like a vivid, like it's not like, oh, we're against this. It's kind of just describing it from the captor's point of view and showing how like sick and twisted that person is, and slowing the track down at this point in the album as well is like very crucial. You've had a lot of like hard songs, and slowing it down, obviously, it kind of just, it gives it like that little bit more sadistic tone.
Yeah, I always think with songs like that, whether it's about something that's like, whether it's either something that's like obviously quite sad, or something that's quite sort of angry or vengeful, I almost find slowing it down makes it more like, if you have a song where you're angry and you just rock out, like it takes away a lot. It makes sense, but it takes, I think, because it's been done so much, it like just takes out a lot of the impact.
No, like, I think anger suits going hard like rock, but when it's like sad and scary and sadistic, I think going a little bit slower, it makes a little bit more sense. And the thing that I really found interesting about this song, obviously with it being literally just kind of a description of what went on. This song was actually played at the Rock Against Rape concert in 1993, which it helped like raise money for like women's self defense like organisation or something. But it's quite interesting that a song like this, where it describes it so vividly, was used to help benefit that cause. Because I think a lot of people could, without really like reading into why Nirvana were making this song, could think that this is like, it's quite a horrible song for Nirvana to make, and like quite sadistic, but when it's used for like a positive cause, I don't think anyone can slate the song.
I suppose as well, it's there's nowhere in the song where like it's saying like, oh, this is good, like it's just describing like,
but it also doesn't say it's bad.
No, but it's at the same time, like, it's just describing what's going on in that room. It's not actually saying like, it doesn't really give an opinion either way. So,
but you like Tyler Creator is a perfect example. He spoke about it, but he never openly came out as a person outside of the character of his albums. Like, you know what, this is the best thing to do. Like, no, and he still got banned. So there's always people who won't, like Kurt was talking about in the song earlier. What was it? In Bloom, where people who don't really look into music far enough, and Teresa may be in one of them, and banning.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, and
look what happened to her.
Tyler. So yeah.
So listen more in depth to music, people, is what we're basically saying. Otherwise, you'll get removed as Prime Minister. I think that's the moral of the show this week. Should we just pop on a bit of Polly?
Pop on a bit of Polly. Okay, so that was Polly off of Nevermind by Nirvana. If you're just joining us now, this is our Album of the Week section, and we're reviewing Nevermind by Nirvana. So we're up to the seventh track. Unfortunately, there is a word in the title of this song that we can't say, so it's territorial urination. I'll call it for this.
I think that actually might have been a better choice of. I mean, just from saying that, it's, I don't know. It just sounds. I think that's. Yeah,
and it after such a slow song with Polly, it comes in so hard with this song, and the reference to I don't know if you've noticed, there's a reference to a Youngbloods song, "Get Together," which is like a hippie tune at the time, and I think that sets the track up nicely with. So obviously it's talking about peace and love and stuff like that in the original song. And this song kind of explores about how culture's kind of lost that ethos with life, if you get me. Like a lot of people, that hippie era had gone at this point, and it's kind of going more into this song. It talks about how the humans, obviously, with the territorial thing, is trying to like, make their mark a bit too much on the world, and maybe culture standing in the way with that whole thing.
Well, yeah, because the title as a whole, it's sort of it's the whole idea. It's about how animals, obviously, when they're marking their territory, will. So it's kind of reference to that. I don't really have a lot to say about this song. Like, I think it's one of the weaker ones. I still really enjoy it, obviously. But I'd say this and maybe one of the other tracks on this side of the album I wouldn't really listen to unless I chucked on the vinyl of this. But yeah, as you said, like another thing I do agree with, like obviously because side one ends with Polly, and then obviously because I had the vinyl of it, I flipped it over. Yeah, it's such a change, but it's a welcome change, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think Polly's crucial to be in there because it calms it down. Like I find an album with just pure like hard rock songs and punk rock songs like becomes a bit much after a while. It grates on you a little bit.
It's also the same with like songs that have any similar sound. Like for example, the album with the Superorganism album we did last week, where like again it was kind of like it did get a bit jarring after a while because it was that similar kind of sound. But yeah.
I found the chorus in this song quite interesting, where it's got to find a way, and then it ends with "I'd better wait." And it's kind of Kurt saying that he personally feels like he wants to find a way to help society along with these things, but it's just realistically he's never going to reach that point where he can help, which is quite a sad sentiment to leave the song on. But then the next song, "Drain You." I think this is Nirvana's attempt at a traditional love song, I guess.
This is the song that I was talking about where we were playing Polly, like just when we were off air, like just saying like I think this is one of the more underrated Nirvana songs. Like unfortunately, because there's loads of other like classic hit songs, like it's not one of my favorites off the album, but like I really enjoy this one, and I know it's one of Kurt Cobain's favorites. He was saying like. Yeah, he was saying, I can't remember who it was to, but he's basically just saying like, yeah, he thinks this is one of the best songs that he's done. But he says that if it probably ended up like Smells Like Teen Spirit, he probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's one of those songs that like it's not that well known.
Yeah.
Even within the context of the album, I don't think many people would. I don't think if I spoke to many Nirvana fans, they'd be like, oh, do you know which song is my favorite? Drain You.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy this one. I like the sound of this one.
It's one of my favourite on the album as well. The Lucky to Have Met You is actually a quote from Toby Vale as well. And then it goes on to reflect just relationships in general in a bad light, and just how obviously with the title "Drain You," about how like each party kind of just drains each other of energy, and it in the song it's like an over reliance on each other, and the instrumental section just before the ending is like beautifully ominous and like kind of
like the breakdown section where you get Kurt just letting out that scream as well. And that was the bit actually I was going to say. Actually, that's one of my favorite parts of the song.
Reinforced like the idea of relationships being poisonous and like the hissing and I love that bit of music.
Yeah, it's getting to Lounge Act. That's the next track, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably one of the weaker ones on the album for me.
Yeah, I'd say I like it more than Territorial. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And there's another track as well that's coming up that I'd probably like less than this. Yeah. Okay. But I think I really like the bass line on this. Okay. Like I was listening to it this morning, and the bass line I really enjoyed on this one. It's a really awesome bass line. Again, yeah, it's one of the weaker ones off the album, but I think I just really enjoyed the bass line off this one. I think it's from a sound perspective, it's really awesome. But it's
I read into lyrics a bit more than listen to the sound. I think that's where like our yin and yang comes in.
Yeah.
But So I think it just explores kind of topics that have already been explored in this album with like toxic relationships.
Yeah, that's
it goes into a bit of like cheating and stuff like that, which I suppose he hasn't explored. But I do like the line "truth covered in security," and like the idea of like he refuses to face the truth of that he should leave this relationship.
Yeah, there are some really good lines of this song. Yeah,
a relationship brings security. A relationship is a security blanket, and he refuses to end it just to take away that security, and then he'd be alone, kind of thing. I think it's a really nice line. But then the next song being "Stay Away," I feel like this is like a desperate cry from Kurt just to kind of be left alone by the media.
Yeah, I do think
sheep in general.
I do think as well though. I think this might be the weakest song off the album.
Okay, interesting.
I just like I like reading into the song. I appreciate it completely. Mm-hmm. Like it's I understand it. I really like the kind of what the message he's trying to go for. But again, like when listening to it, like it was almost too Nirvana if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. You're
like
monkey see, monkey do.
Like it almost like in terms of a sound, it's almost like a Nirvana parody. Like because it gets that like just scream like "stay away." Like it's almost like a bit of a parody of itself.
Okay,
but I still like it. I used to like this when I was a lot younger, but I feel like not listening to it for a while, and then I hear it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember it being.
Okay.
I think maybe that's why it's my least favorite because I remember enjoying this a lot more. Yeah. So like just sort of that's about it really.
found the last line of the thing. A lot of people miss it as well. After "Stay Away, Stay Away, Stay Away," he also slips in "God Is Gay" at the end, and that is something that Kurt used to spray paint on the side of pickup trucks. Because he used to go to church and stuff like that, and once getting completely disassociated with religion in general, he started spray painting that on trucks, and it's kind of him poking fun at like the homophobic side of Christianity.
I think as well. I think that line actually was part of the reason why when I was younger I quite like this, because I just thought it was just quite a funny line, but also quite poignant as well.
Yeah. When you, because it's interesting to think that Kurt was raised religious in that sense, and
you wouldn't have guessed that from actually a lot of those
that line kind of captures exactly why he wasn't. It's that side of it that he doesn't like. Obviously, there are sides of it that he talks about in a track earlier where turning to religion to help him with his issues in his life that he did appreciate, but there's points in it obviously with the homophobia that he doesn't like. But the next track, "On a Plane," is actually, I think, the weakest track on the album.
Oh, really? I'd say that's my second favourite song off the second side.
Okay.
I think also as well, I really do like the unplugged version as well from the MTV. I don't know if you've listened to the the acoustic version of that's really good as well.
That cardigan. How much it sold recently?
Did it?
It was something crazy, like £30,000 or something. I can't remember exactly the number, but that cardigan he's wearing in that video sold for a lot of money.
I do think as well, I do just like how this song is about writing a song, because it's just throwing together loads of different stuff. It kind of reminds me of like when he was sort of reading into like how he wrote it. It kind of reminded me a bit of "I Am the Walrus," like just taking loads of stuff and like just I like that in a way.
I don't know. That's kind of why I didn't like it. I think that's probably my fault. Like the rest of the album kind of goes into a lot deeper stuff that I was enjoying, such as the next track being "Something in the Way," talking about a time that Kurt Cobain spent homeless.
Yeah, there was a myth that was developed by Nirvana fans that he lived under this bridge in Seattle, and like when actually it wasn't true, because someone pointed out that if he did live there, the tide would have like sucked him in and he would have died. So, but he obviously would spend time under this bridge. I can't remember the name of the bridge. I should have written it down, but I didn't. But yeah, I'd say that this is one of my favorite tracks off the album. I'd say overall, like maybe the second best track off the album.
Okay,
I really do like this one. I just love the moody, like angsty tone, because obviously Nirvana are known for that by doing for the hard rock sort of style, but also the sound of this one also portrays that, but just in a completely different sound.
It kind of shows that they can do both. They can both go hard and go slow. Like it shows a lot. And technically, this is the last track on the album, and I think it's a nice way to end the album off in like a depressing album with a depressing end.
Yeah. Should we quickly just brush over "Endless Nameless"? There's really not much to say about it.
It's just it's a random jam that came about when they were trying to record Lithium, which is quite interesting. And I'm not gonna lie, I love this song.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it. It's just organic, like it's organic, like punk and like artistic nature of the band. It's just
I do find with I do like a good jam, but my problem with a lot of jams that I've listened to, they just go on for way too long. Yeah. They don't really know when to stop. Like for example, there's a perfect one from, of course, Paul McCartney album, the Driving Rain album. It's called "Rinse the Raindrops."
Yeah,
it goes on for like 10 minutes, and I just cannot listen to. It's honestly, I think "Rinse the Raindrops" is one of the worst Paul McCartney tracks. It's just so tedious, and this isn't as tedious because it's more sort of close to 7 minutes. Yeah, but it makes sense why this was a Lithium jam, because it's the B-side to the Lithium single. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I think
just generally in this album, just wrapping up the album a little bit, I think like Kurt's like clever, sadistic, but also like at times humorous. Like his lyrics are sometimes humorous, and they're just so clever throughout this album. And the lyricism in this album is, like you said, like something I hadn't really looked into before, and I'm glad I have since. The album's not always an easy listen. Like it's not an album that I can put on whenever I want, but there's certain times and moments in my life where I will want to put this album on, and I'm so glad that we have reviewed this album, because this album will forever be in my rotation from now on. It is an excellent album.
Yeah, this is the thing, like just from when I was younger I enjoyed it, like just listening to it and getting into music as a whole in general, but as I've gotten older, like it's an album that like it doesn't even, it's not like Scouting for Girls where you love it when you're about 7 or 8, but then when you like go back and listen to it, you're like, oh, this is terrible. If anything, from listening to this album, I like it even more. Yeah, which is actually
because I'm a bit more aware of the topics that he's talking about and stuff like that, and it's also sad just to look back on the life of Kurt Cobain in general. In like the way he went, and the art that he's made before was so impactful, and I think as well this is actually as well the first album with Nirvana that Dave Grohl was on.
Yeah, because before they had Chad Channing, I believe his name was, who performed on Bleach, which is their first album.
I think people forget about Dave Grohl being on Nirvana. Like he's
I think
such
that's
a legend.
yeah,
like,
that's a testament now to like what he's done with
Yeah.
Foo Fighters and everything. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan. I don't know a lot of their stuff, but from what I heard, I do really like them. Like The Pretender's a great song, Best of You.
But yeah, going back to this album, just wrapping it up quickly I think it captured exactly how the youth was feeling at the time, depressed and disconnected from society as well as the media. And yeah, like I said, it's an excellent album, an album that will forever be in my rotation. And I'm giving this album a 9 out of 10. It's the second 9 out of 10 I give.
I will agree with you on that. I will give it a 9 out of 10 as well. If I was to describe it in one word, I would say timeless.
Yeah, it's timeless classic. To be honest, it's close to being a 10 for me. It's just, unfortunately, it's got 2 weaker tracks on there for me. And for me, a 10 has to have every single track's got to be amazing.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. I think, should we just pop on Something in the Way now?
Yeah, pop something in the way.